Well, that doesn't seem to be happening, so.
You're officially live. Sometimes on the phones, if you swipe from one side to the other, it changes the view. I know that's the setting for the iPad.
Oh, there it is.
Here's Katie.
So
Hi,
she is.
I did it. Listen, is Russ here? Russ?
No,
Okay,
you
he
are
just
live, just so you're aware.
okay. He just sent me a message saying he was having trouble. So let me just
All right. There we go.
okay. I still don't see Russ. I don't see. Oh, there's Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
Okay. Well, apparently Russ is still trying to connect, but I think we will. I think we'll probably just get started because we have a quorum, right? We've got Liz, we've got Keith.
You got, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay. So I know that there were some technical difficulties getting started, but is everybody in pretty good shape? Are we ready to get started?
Yep.
Yes.
Almost.
Chair Bot, are you good to get this party started?
I'm on my phone and it's causing me heartache, but we'll see. There, whoop, nope, that's not doing it. Okay, how's that?
You all right now? Okay, that's way better.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, it looks like Russ is still having trouble. Carrie, if you're listening, maybe if you could contact him and give him some directions on how to log in.
I'll
With
reach
my-
out to him. Not at
Okay,
all.
you're the best. Thank you so much. So I had to log in through my phone. I was going to share my screen with you if I was able to use my city computer, but apparently that's not going to happen because I'm on my phone. So we're just going to have to go through the agenda and talk about stuff, I guess. So Chair, if you're ready, we can.
Let's call the meeting to order. I've got 4:05, but that's a clock in my room.
Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the last meeting minutes, which were all the way back in February. I mean,
Fun to read them. I move to approve them
I second.
with no changes.
okay, wonderful. And then next, just the approval of personnel transactions. Now I know that Dave sent a lot, but obviously it's been a long time since we've met. So Dave, do you want to just kind of go through the highlights?
Sure. I do have a couple of questions too, real quick on a few of them. 3 that are not included right now are. I'll wait for Russ to get in.
Oh, is he here?
Yep. He's.
There he is. Oh, Russ has his IT department there too, I see.
Mine's on call.
Hi, Russ.
Hey,
I heard him. I don't see him.
I see everybody else.
Wonderful.
All right, so Russ, all you missed was I don't know if you had a chance to look at the minutes. Keith and Liz thought they looked good, so they're approved as submitted.
Okay.
Okay, so we were on the personnel transactions and Dave was going to talk about the highlights.
Yep. I had a question on, Katie, how you would like me to treat these new stipends and the fact that they're being passed by council as a per pay period amount rather than, a per year amount like they have been in the past. And I'm wondering how you want that on the cards. Do you want me to annualize that salary and then add it like we normally would for a stipend? Or do you want me to somehow just notate, $196 per pay period?
I would say annualized because that's really the aggregate number that we're looking for.
Okay.
I'm really not sure, up until I think when you got your stipend, I think that was the only time I've ever seen them award a per paycheck.
Yeah, the only
I
other
mean,
one that we've ever done was Boughton, but that was specific because it was coming out of the transit code, so we couldn't do the, add it to his and have it affect overtime and things like that. So it had to do with the intricacies of that ET fund as opposed to the general fund. But for these, that really isn't a point. So when we did Boughton's, I did annualize it. So if you'd like me to continue doing that, so you'll see three more salary changes in July if we have a meeting in July. That'll be Katie, myself, and Carrie.
So they're doing it at every meeting or once a month approving it?
No, but instead of approving it for like $1,000 stipend for the year, they are saying like this person is going to receive a $76.92 per paycheck stipend. So they're still approving it for
Right.
whatever the course of the stipend is. They're just the wording has changed. So I wanted to make sure that I was capturing it accurately. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Annualizing is the way to go.
Okay, good. Next question is probationary periods for NCPs. There's nothing in our rules that specify NCPs, but for me, I kind of think a non-competitive promotion is a promotion that came from a test, and therefore that's the verbiage that we should use, and therefore it should be a 6-month probation. But I wanted to make sure that you and the commission agreed before I took a couple people off probation.
Nope, that's the correct interpretation because it is a promotion. So it just depends on, you take, a promotional test or you take an NCP, it just, you arrive at the same place. So yes, I would say they are all, should be considered for probation purposes, should be considered promotions.
Okay, good. And then the last question I have is with John Hester's promotion. I know we eventually want to do that as an NCP. Do we have to make him provisional first until we get the state's approval to use the code enforcement officer exam, or can we just do that on our own and call it an NCP immediately?
No, I think I think you were correct to make him provisional. It's just that I don't want him to be provisional pending the traditional exam route. I want to apply for the NCP, but because the exam that he took wasn't the same title as the position to which he's being appointed, that's why I want to get the state approval.
Okay.
Like, it's really easy when it's someone who like with director of finance that we did recently, because the exam hadn't changed because the title was the same. It was
Right.
really kind of a different process.
Okay.
But yeah, so provisional is correct for now, with
Okay.
the understanding that I'm working on the NCP.
Got it. Okay, so very good. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff there for you. Those were the only 3 I had questions on. So you'll see some of those now that they're resolved on the July meeting. So do you guys have any questions for me on any of them? I'm sure you read them very carefully line by line.
All eight of them.
Yes, yeah.
Now, are we all caught up, or are we waiting for?
The city and the library are all caught up. And the housing authority is very close to being caught up. I should have that for you for the next meeting. And then we'll be tackling the school district.
The school district.
Mhm.
All right. Well, can we move to approve all of them in a batch? If so, I would move that.
Second.
Great.
So
Very good.
moved.
Okay, so then we'll move on to correspondence. And I know that Chair Bott likes to see all sorts of correspondence, so I've got all kinds of things to report. You'll notice in here, and I don't know why I didn't do this, but it occurred to me that the commission might appreciate like understanding when we're here, what type of correspondence we're receiving from the outside agencies, and the types of questions that are coming in. So I've included that in this again, just because it's been so long since we've met. That said, I will try to go through it as briefly as we can. So I started with the most recent, going on to the oldest correspondence. So the first thing was just a note from Kurt Schulte at the Housing Authority. He is having the retirement of a longtime worker, a custodian worker, and was just looking for my advice on how to handle it. The next one is from the library. So Tina Winstead, the director at the library, had a very good question about extending the probationary periods of her workers for people who missed time during the emergency closure. So her question to us was, well, I mean, we've been closed for 10 weeks. Can we just extend everybody by 10 weeks? And Dave and I explained that it's a little bit more complicated than that. So our rules say that if you are absent during your probationary period, then you can have that time added on to your probationary period. So what we're going to do is look at the days that the employees, there's 5 affected employees, look at the time they actually worked, and then subtract that from 10 weeks, and then we'll have a number that will add on to the end of their probationary period. So it will mean that it will be a full year of probation. So again, it's just a way for us to be able to, more accurately capture the full 52-week probationary period. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the next thing was a survey for June 27th examinations from State Civil Service. They just wanted to know if we had exams scheduled and if we were planning on holding them. We did have several, which I'll go through with you when we talk about the exam section, but we are not holding them. We haven't held any exams since, January. So all of the exams since then have been postponed. The next one was a note from the state about what are our exam priorities. And I think what they're trying to do in general, and we'll talk about this again under the exam section, is that because nobody's been able to hold exams, the amount of time and preparation that goes into state prepared exams on a centralized basis, it can be it's a lot of work that goes into them. So I think what they're trying to do is just to gauge statewide, are you giving an exam just to give it because you want to establish a list? Are you giving an exam because you have a provisional hire? Are you giving an exam to avoid a provisional hire? So basically I had responded on behalf of the commission with what our priorities were. And I indicated that our priorities are any place where we have a provisional hire and people are literally waiting, on the status of their employment pending the outcome of the test. So that was fun. The next thing was just a nice note again from Kurt Schulte at the Housing Authority. We had sent out our annual civil service fees for 2019. I made it very clear that I thought that it was just a drop in the bucket for having to put up with him, and he agreed with me, and he was he's very happy for our support. The next was a May 28th PAR, a policy advisory report from the State Department of Civil Service. It was capturing revisions to the decentralized exam program for entry-level audit and account clerk. So this will affect us if we were to give the entry-level account clerk civil service exam. That exams are held a few different ways. The written tests are done centralized, which is they prepare the exam books and send them out to us and we hold it on, the state scheduled date. The decentralized programs can be done with a little bit more frequency and we basically pick the date and they send us the books. There's just a little bit more scheduling flexibility. So the program, based on the documentation that the state sent, it just looks like the exam program is changing. So it'll be something that we'll have to keep in mind the next time we give the account clerk exam. The next email was the June 13th exam survey. So basically the same thing I explained a couple emails ago, just they were looking to know if we had exams scheduled for June 13th, if we planned on holding them. We did, and we did not hold them. So I responded accordingly. Next, we had a note from Nathan Alderman, who's the president of the New York State Association of Personnel and Civil Service Officers. And that was just advising us that the annual training conference was canceled. So that was that's depressing. That's a very great conference. I enjoy going. I always pick up a lot. It's a great way to hear directly from the state. The state commission has representatives there and it's just a great networking event. But of course, as expected, it was canceled. Next, we had an email from the city school district inquiring about our 2019 fees because apparently they noticed that they hadn't been billed. So I was very glad that they reminded us of that. So we took care of that immediately. The next was an email from the state for layoff resources. So obviously, You know, a lot of municipalities, local governments throughout the state are, you know, really grappling, having difficulties with how to balance their budgets due to COVID-related financial implications. Fortunately, in the city of Oneonta, we have a, you know, due to a long-standing, responsible, you know, financial planning and conservative financial planning, we've been able to withstand the storm, even though we're taking a pretty huge hit financially, from what I understand from all the presentations that our finance director has made to the Common Council, that we are able to maintain all of our staff at full levels with benefits. So that's really great news. So we were fortunately not really in need of the layoff resources from the state, but I was glad that they sent them. The next was an email from the school district. They had questions on a seniority list, which Dave and I answered. The next, so there was an exam scheduled for March 14th. It was the personnel director exam. It was just being administered to one candidate. We didn't do it because for a variety of challenges. We were right at the beginning of the COVID mess. And so that one will be postponed. We'll talk about that one again a little bit under the exam section. But there was apparently some people, some municipalities and counties chose to give the exam. And I guess from what I understand, it was a mess. Like the state has no idea where the materials are. They're still trying to track them down. So we basically got a desperate plea from the state civil service on March 14th, or on April 10th, saying, hey, if you have any March 14th exam materials left, please send them back. The next was just another note from the Housing Authority. I had reached out to him just to check in to see how he was doing on COVID related stuff, and we kind of networked on that. So that was helpful. On March 13th, we had a note from the State Association, Nathan Alderman, just in general about exam guidance, because this was sort of a weird situation for everybody. And a lot of people were having difficulty with, what does this mean? Should we give exams? What do we do? How do we handle this? And then the last one is this the last one? No, it's not the last one. The second to last one was, so every year we have to do an exam fee billing reconciliation where when we collect an exam fee, that the entire fee isn't automatically kept by the city. So we have to remit part of the fees to the state based on the numbers of people that we tested. So we were very happy at the end of February. It was the same day that the commission met, February 26th, that they had accepted our report. And so we were able to pay them for the year, retrospectively for 2019. So that was good news. And then the last thing we got was just, they've changed the state commission has changed the state test administration phone number. So if Dave and I get into trouble on a Saturday morning and need the state's help, we have to call a different number. That concludes the correspondence. Where's Keith? Is he still here? There he is.
Yep.
Any questions or concerns on correspondence?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Great. So we will move on to eligible lists. I'm not sure exactly how to handle this. Maybe I will send the information out in email, or maybe just get your verbal approval and then I'll have you sign it when we're all together again. We have two eligible lists to establish. The first is for tenant relations assistant, which was administered in December. And there were 3 candidates that took it. All 3 passed. They did a great job. We had 2 90s and an 80. So based on that information, we've established the list, and we'll send out score notices today unless there's any concern.
Is that something that you can put up on Zoom right now? No.
So this was why I was hoping to be able to have, to be able to do this. Well, you know what? Maybe, hey, Carrie, are you still on? Carrie Ann?
I am.
Yes.
I am.
So theoretically, if I email you a document, can you share your screen?
I can, absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna do that right now.
Not to complicate things, but we could at least look at it and have it done with today.
Nope, I totally agree.
Okay.
2019, sorry, I should have thought about this sooner. Tenant relations assistant.
Hey, Carrie.
Yeah.
Carrie, did you try to send it to my city email? Because I never got it. I'm using Roadrunner for these meetings.
No, it was a personal email address. Because I made sure, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't using the city one, because that's what you were still in my computer as, to be honest.
Got it. I just wondered.
Did it go to your spam filter or junk filter perchance?
I could check.
Yeah, sometimes for whatever reason, they like to block city addresses as spam. So it's possible that it went.
All right, Carrie, so I sent you 2 emails. The first one is an Excel spreadsheet, and it should say tenant relations assistant.
Okay. There's that one. Just waiting for it to load up, sorry.
Sure. So just my commentary on this while we're waiting for the document to load for Carrie. So this test was administered for the housing authority, obviously. There's no current vacancy in this title because we ended up filling the vacancy as a caseworker instead of a tenant relations assistant. So I don't know if the commission recalls, adopting a caseworker job description. I don't know, probably about, 10 months ago or so. But so there's currently no vacancy, but it's good to have this list. So if everybody can see the screen, so again, there are 3 candidates. There are the names, there are the scores, and the ranking.
Okay. So that becomes an eligible list because you've got 3 candidates all at the same score.
So they have, it's a mandatory eligible list. So if the housing authority has a vacancy in this title, we will use this list for at least a period of 1 year. So again, for a list to be mandatory, there has to be a minimum of 3 names. And we have that. So we had 3 people took the test, and we've got, and all 3 of these people are equally reachable because they're all in the top 3.
Great. 1 year, or can we go longer than that?
So you'll notice at the top, we're establishing it today, and I've set it to expire for 4 years. So I think that automatically, the commission had decided several months back that we should automatically set lists to the maximum. So that way we don't have to take any action in case we want to extend a list. The problem is if you establish it for a year and find that you really needed it for 2, once it expires, you can't go back and retroactively extend it. You can only do that while it is still alive, per se. That said, lists have to be established for a minimum of 1, a maximum of 4 years. So what I've been doing is just setting all of the expiration dates to the maximum of 4 years, knowing if we need it, we've got it. But after the 1 year mark expires, then we can just give a new test if needed.
Great. I do remember that discussion, and I think the longer's the better. So if we're ready to move and adopt this list, I'll do so.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. All right, Carrie, do you mind switching over to the civilian dispatcher one?
Not at all.
Okay, so here's civilian dispatcher. We had 4 candidates sign up. All 4 did well here. So the reachable candidates are the top 3. So you see how there's 285s, an 80, and a 75. So as it stands right now, the reachable 3 are numbers 1, 2, and 3. Carrie, do we have anybody on the live stream?
Let me take a look.
Okay.
Nope, just me.
Just you? Okay. Well, I probably should still answer questions about this in executive session. We already have one built in, so there is a candidate on this list who is a provisional employee, and the person did not score in the top 3. So that's a consideration. However, providing you approve the list today, I have prepared and will mail out canvas letters, and the ranking may change based on the response of the canvas. So if we have, number 3 say, no, I'm not interested in going to, the police department or to our Oneonta Public Transit, then that would obviously move number 4 up into the number 3 spot for this particular vacancy.
Right. Well,
So, and again, you'll see that we've established it for the maximum of 4 years, as we had previously discussed.
looks good to me. Anybody want to move the adoption of it?
I'll move to adopt it.
All right, I'll second.
Great, thank you. Hey, David?
Muted.
Muted.
Are you
He's
muted?
reaching.
Corey,
There we go. Yes.
there you are. So in the folders, I saved the roster and the eligible list. So if you could just double check, so that way we're fulfilling our checked by requirement, that would be great.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so next on the list, thank you for doing that, Carrie. That was great. Next on the list, I just wanted to go through the status of all the exams. And I will tell you, it's a little complicated. So under ordered, we have transportation director. We have a provisional. That one has been pending for over a year now. So not all that surprised. We have a records management clerk. That's in the police department. There's a provisional employee in that title as well. A personal assistant trainee. We ordered that just in anticipation of, potential, not knowing what my status was, maybe moving some people around. So that one was ordered in January. Accountant and junior accountant. So we had a resignation in the finance office. So again, that was we weren't sure which title we were going to fill. So both of the exams were ordered. The next is water and sewer supervisor. That was ordered in February, and there's a provisional promotion candidate in that job too. So under scheduled, I have police officer, and that's something that I have under new business to discuss because our police officer exam, I fear it's going to be a mess. I'm not entirely sure what will happen, but we can talk about it a little bit more there. So that is tentatively scheduled by the state for September 26th. The only exam, now that we've got tenant relations and civilian dispatcher, the only exam we're waiting for results from is the deputy director of finance. And we have a provisional in that spot too. But given that, literally just this week, I got the results of the exam that was given in January. I think it's probably going to be a long while before we get the results for Deputy Director of Finance. We currently have no canceled exams, but we do have several that are pending rescheduling. Now, these ones, Dave and I aggressively ordered exams, had planned for a variety of exams, and we planned for a pretty busy exam schedule this spring. Obviously, that did not happen. So all of these exams are ones that either were going to be held and we missed them, or there's 2 that are scheduled for June 27th. And based on the city's reopening and our safety plan, there's just no way that we can hold them. So engineering GIS technician, that one was scheduled to be held on May 16th. That one is not filled. It's a position that Greg is actively recruiting for now. So hopefully we're going to get that one soon. Code enforcement inspector, we have no list. That one was to be held on June 13th, and that obviously didn't happen. Finance coordinator, that had been ordered along the same lines as the accountant and junior accountant. That one had been scheduled for June. That one didn't get held. Purchasing agent, that was scheduled for April. Dave and I announced this one and took applications, and then that was canceled. That's a problem because we're anticipating our current purchasing agent to retire probably by the end of the year, if not around the end of the year. So that one was really disappointing. I was really hoping to have a good eligible list in place so we could fill that spot easily. Personnel director, that was scheduled for March 14th. That one is pending rescheduling. Again, when I was on a leave of absence and I wasn't sure what my status was going to be, Dave and I agreed that it was the right thing to do to hold the exam. Now I'm back and we're all a happy family together. So there's no harm in continuing to hold the exam just to have a list established. Police sergeant, we have a provisional in that spot. That was scheduled for June 13th. Senior library clerk, I know that that's something that Tina's waiting on. That was scheduled for May. Fire captain and transit working supervisor, those were both scheduled for the end of June. Again, because of the city safety plan, there's no way we can practically hold those. So those were the exams that I reported to the state. And again, I ranked them in terms of priority, and I ranked the things that either we know we're going to have a person leaving or retiring or whatever out of a position. And then also the people who are already exams for someone who's already in a provisional appointment. Those are the things that I ranked as the priority. So I'm not really sure what the state's intention is. I haven't really heard, other than just gathering the data from all of the different agencies that administer the exams. I don't know if they're going to be just saying, okay, well, you're going to have to wait a year and we'll put it on the master exam schedule. I'm not sure what the plan will be, but as soon as I know more, I will be happy to share it.
What is the city's reopening plan? I mean, is there a likelihood that exams could be handled?
So, I mean, I have a bullet under new business, but we can just get into it now. So I thought that the commission might appreciate just an update in terms of where is the city in terms of, COVID, and are we open? Are we closed? Are we not? What's going on? So in general, Greg Mattice, who's the city engineer, and I are the city's COVID operations work group task force. I've heard us called a number of things, co-chairs. So it was up to us to make a plan based on the governor's phased plan for how we were going to move from emergency operations to continuity of operations to kind of get back to normal. So where we are right now is our plan, the city's plan, not coinciding with the governor's phases, but we had our own phase plan. The first phase was obviously emergency operations. We're shutting down, we're doing only what's necessary, police, fire, unsafe housing declarations, things like that, getting the bills out the door. The next phase was kind of our modified operations phase, which was people were working on rotating schedules. Most people were working from home, et cetera. When the city, as part of the Mohawk Valley region, was able to start reopening, I think it was right around the 1st of June, end of May, that was when we started adding back in services, having people come back on site in a limited basis, et cetera. So we have 3 phases where we just started yesterday, our 3rd phase of reopening. And what that all means is that we're continuing through the end of the month to have, staggered shifts, staggered start times, social distancing measures, people, working from home. Like Dave and I are splitting the time in the office. He's here Wednesdays and Thursdays. I'm here Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. So again, we're just doing our best to try to promote social distancing to the extent possible. So that said, I have a meeting with the mayor and Greg and the city's health officer tomorrow afternoon to kind of decide what do we do next. I mean, so July 1st is looming. We're 2 weeks away, knowing that the Mohawk Valley continues to meet the metrics as established by the governor to remain reopen. We're not sure what to do, whether that means we'll kind of continue on in a modified operations plan where people will be continuing to work partially remotely, or if that means on July 1st, we're going to open City Hall back up to the public 100%. I'm really not sure. So I'm saying all that to say this. There's a lot of uncertainty as to exactly what our plan will look like. So I'm not really comfortable making firm plans and collecting applications and making plans for giving exams when we're not sure, number one, if the building will be open to the public. Number two, not sure of what our applicant pools will look like. Granted that, a lot of people are out of work, and I would anticipate that now we'll have a lot more people maybe signing up to take civil service exams, I would hope, even though it's a sad consequence of the financial state of affairs. And the other thing is if we, the problem is, especially with the police exam, I'm not sure if we're even going to, even if the state offers an exam, I don't know if we're going to be able to have a physical location big enough to give it where we can maintain appropriate social distancing, et cetera. I know that if our candidate pool remains about what it was for the last couple years with police, giving the exam where we gave it in the cafeteria at the middle school, it's not going to be big enough because there's not 6 feet of distance in between our candidates. So I'm kind of just keeping an eye on things between the state and the governor's office. The mayor is a member of the regional control room, so he's on a daily conference call with the Mohawk Valley, other leaders, and which has a liaison with the governor's office. So we're basically just keeping our eye on it and making no firm plans, and we'll just make plans as we know a little bit more about what we're going to do.
How many
Is it-
take the police exam?
So, I mean, it depends. I mean, we used to have around 100. I mean, last year we had, I think it was like in the 70s, and the year before that it was in the 60s. So, I mean, one option is that if the state does give the exam and we have a place to give it, I mean, we can break them up and do, heat 1, heat 2, A group, B group. So that way we only have 50% of the candidates on site at one time. Makes for a very long day, but I think it would be worth it it'll help us maintain social distancing. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm thinking about the Performing Arts Center as one of the bigger spaces I know of. Or
Yeah,
more.
Foothills or one of the colleges. I mean, I think that, especially with something like police officer, that's an important public safety position. And I'd have to think that there would be some community partner somewhere willing to work with us, in terms of providing a location. We know that the school has a larger room. I think that Dave, you spec'd it out the last time we were there. It's not the cafeteria. It's maybe a little bit bigger, nicer space. But again, we can't count on the school at this point either. We don't know what's going to happen, if they're going to be open, if they're not going to be open. So
The field house in SUNY.
the field house is SUNY. There we go. And we'll have everybody come in and you can all be monitors because we'll need you all in a large space like that.
Oh. Well, good luck with that.
So does anybody have any questions about, the status of the city? So right now, like we're open for, City Hall is still technically closed to the public, though I like to call it restricted. We're by appointment only. We have like I said, we have a very comprehensive 8-page safety plan that details cleaning and wellness monitoring and social distancing and every possible consideration, aimed at keeping the workplace as healthy as possible. I'm happy to send it out if you'd like to read it.
That's all right.
All right.
Open it up, that's what I say.
So that said, under old business, I looked at the agenda from the last time. I didn't really see anything that needed commenting on. Dave, was there anything that you saw that you thought needed follow-up? I didn't
No.
see anything. No? Okay. So then under new business, like I mentioned, we just had our operations update, so you know what the status is of the city. Police officer exam considerations, we talked about that. The next thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if a lot of you have been following this, but you may know that the governor signed into law on Friday significant modifications to police reform. So according to the governor, the reforms are the piece that really pertains to the commission is section 50A of the civil service law, which was repealed. So 50A of the civil service law previously prohibited the disclosure of police and firefighter disciplinary and personnel records. So if you had, a termination of an officer or a firefighter, we were not allowed to disclose either the documents or discuss it outside of the employee's confidential personnel file. So 50A has been repealed, meaning that now police officers and firefighters are just like any other employee. So while we would treat every employee's records, especially disciplinary records, confidentially, there is a certain increased level of transparency aimed to increase public trust between police agencies and the general public. So I've been following this very closely. I've been working with our labor attorneys on this, and there's a couple pretty heavy considerations that we don't have answers to. So it's very broad in scope. We love laws that are broad in scope, of course. And it's the repeal is effective immediately, but it's not entirely clear as to whether or not that means that the law is retroactive. So if we had, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, a disciplinary matter involving an officer or a firefighter, the question is that now subject to disclosure? And the answer is we don't know. So they're looking into it. The one thing that we've been advised legally is that we should expect a flood of FOIL requests on discipline records for basically every police officer, every firefighter, and every municipality, just as places, like the Empire Justice Center, the ACLU, and other civil rights organizations attempt to build and quantify data. So Carrie, who's our FOIL officer, who's also here, thank goodness for Carrie, and I have been talking about this, and we're going to keep in contact if we start to get any of these, and I'll certainly advise the commission if we get any FOILs. But I just think it's really important for you all to know that, that section of civil service law was repealed effective immediately. Not entirely sure exactly what it means or how to apply it, but we can no longer fail to disclose when required disciplinary records involving police officers and firefighters.
And a FOIL request is the only way that is to be released?
A FOIL request, or I would say some sort of judicial intervention. So if we have a subpoena, or if a court order to prove or show documentation, then I would say those would be the two ways, yes. And even still, there's a provision for, what is personal protected information. So we would never release an officer's birthday or home address or home contact information, et cetera. But
their name is being released, so
their name is being released, yes.
That's available information pretty much.
Yeah.
All right.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I mean, again, I do think that we should expect a flood of FOILs, not necessarily because anybody in particular is looking very closely at what's happening in the city of Oneonta, but I do think that on the heels of this being signed into law, I do think that there will be certain civic and civil liberties organizations that will be looking to quantify this data and how many, throughout the state, how many undisclosed disciplinary matters were there with officers. So, I don't know, it'll be interesting, but I just wanted to let you know that it was happening and that we're on top of it.
I do have a quick question on that. Does that retroactively apply to former employees as well? And does that change the retention at all?
No, I don't know, Dave. I'm not sure. I mean, so the guidance from Paul said that while the law is effective immediately, we are still researching whether the law is retroactive in nature. And we don't know if that applies to former employees, people who were, potentially terminated, people who resigned. I mean, so I don't know.
I'm just curious because one of the things I had on my list for the next 2 days when I'm in the office is records retention and getting boxes down to down to Val, and I'm wondering if I should pull fire and police for now, or the folks that are aging out through the normal retention policy, if I should go ahead and move forward with that, if they might be affected.
Yeah, I would say anything police and fire until we have a better clear cut guidance from Coughlin and Gerhart, I would say hold on to them.
Okay.
Any other questions on section 50A?
Do we have any sense of what a FOIL request costs the city?
Carrie could probably better answer that. I think it depends on how labor intensive it is. If it's one document that we can scan in and email to someone, then obviously it's not a big deal. But I mean, Carrie, you can take this one.
Yeah, generally the average FOIL request is generally low cost to the city. A lot of our records have been digitized, so it's simply a matter of pulling the document, retrieving it, and sending it to the requester. The time comes in if there's anything that needs to be redacted as far as personally identifiable information, or there are 7 criteria that indicate what we can not or we do not have to release as far as information is concerned. So the time really comes in when it's something of that nature, or if the request is extensive. We've had people that have sought emails for every city employee. We have over 100 accounts. So the time then comes in there. Over 2 or possibly 3 hours, we can then begin charging. And that charge is based on the lowest hourly wage of the employee that is capable of completing the request. So,
And do we have an idea of what the average number per year is?
I would say as of late, we average, I would easily say 100 requests per year. But a lot of them, like I said, a lot of them are, hey, I just need this document. We get the document, we send it, it's done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any questions on that before we move on?
No.
No? Okay, so the last thing I had on the list was I just wanted to let everybody know. So I mentioned in a couple different places throughout that we had a resignation in the finance office of our accountant, which created, a hole in the department for sure. And now we have another employee in the department who will be going out on potentially a long-term leave. So it's leaving the finance department kind of dangerously low staffed.
Is that Nicole that left, you're saying?
Nicole Camerata.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Didn't know if
huge
there's
loss for
someone
the
else.
city. Yeah, she's great. We miss her a lot. She and Dave worked very closely together on payroll and a lot of different employee benefits matters and retirement and all sorts of fun things. So we hired an accountant candidate to get started on June 1st, and the candidate was a real rock star, but unfortunately she rescinded her acceptance a few days before she was set to start. So after Jenny, the finance director, and I talked about it at length, we agreed that it was going to be tough given, various logistical challenges with holding interviews, et cetera, to really do a true recruitment and get another person in, especially given the fact that, now Nicole's been gone for a few months and the situation with this other employee. So in true Dave fashion, Dave Corey has stepped up and said that he will help out on a temporary basis by temporarily being reassigned jointly between finance and personnel. It was kind of the natural choice given that Dave already knows 75% of the functions of the position. So it'll be a matter of him learning 25% more, whereas for a new candidate coming in from the outside, it would be learning 100%. So on a 3-month trial basis, we're just going to give it a try and see how Dave likes working in finance. Well, I don't want to say in finance because it's really a combined position between finance and personnel. So there's so much overlap between the two offices in terms of employee benefits and payroll and health insurance and retirement and a variety of other matters. It's just kind of consolidating a lot of those duties that had previously resided in 2 different people in 2 different departments into just one person, which is Dave. So he won't be working as much in civil service for the next 3 months. We haven't really talked or figured out exactly what the duties list will look like, but we're going to be looking to hire a part-time personnel clerk type person who will be able to help out with filing and preparation of documents and answering the phone and really just kind of being, doing clerical and administrative tasks, to kind of help lessen Dave's load so he can really be a help in finance. So just wanted to let you all know that. Thank Dave for being a good team player and being willing to help out. And we'll see where it goes. I mean, maybe he'll eventually become our full-time employee benefits and payroll coordinator or manager or something along those lines, but maybe he'll decide that he really prefers working in civil service and come back to us up here. So just wanted to let you all know that was on the horizon.
So we're not going to get caught up on the school district's timesheets anytime soon. Is that what you're saying?
No, well, see as long as a person who knows civil service is guiding the process, I would say that as long as the person is tech savvy and is a good, solid clerical administrative assistant type person, I think that Dave and I can easily maybe get this person set up, not to interpret civil service, but at least to be able to do some of the more, the easier, simpler parts of the task, like actually physically updating a roster card or saying, here's these emails, print them and sort them and make a report or something like that. So it'll, Dave and I do a lot of work that's highly technical and highly specialized, but then we also have a lot of tasks that could really be done by anybody. I mean, like anybody who knows how to file. So we're looking to take those less complicated areas and give them to, the part-time worker who will be able to help us focus on the more technical areas. So I'm hoping that Dave, as part of his responsibilities kind of in, finance and payroll, et cetera, he'll still be working on, doing a lot of those things that he was.
Yeah.
Just
and-
maybe not the filing parts and the,
Just to, I've kind of entwined the city and library civil service with the payroll process. So those should not be falling behind, so though it should, it'll still be part of that process to keep those caught up. Hopefully as we move along. You're right, though, the school district and the housing authority will be a little more difficult since we don't manage their payroll as well. But as far as library and city civil service, you shouldn't see a lag with those at all.
Well, thank you for stepping in there. And there are photo bombs behind you.
Yes, there are. My office is very oddly located in my house, so that tends to happen. Yeah.
All right. So an
Okay.
executive session?
yep, and I swear we'll get it done in 5 minutes so we can be out of here by 5. Carrie and I've got common council tonight, so we'll move
Okay.
along. So Carrie Ann.
I'm here.
There you are.
I'm here.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to do a breakout room. I mean, or turn off the live feed. I mean, we're not going to be taking any action, but I know
That's
that there
what I was going to
definitely-
ask. Do you have following the executive session?
No, there's no action. It's just a matter of informing the commission on a confidential personnel matter.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll put you into a breakout room just because it is still a public meeting, and that way people can determine that you're still in session. And then, yeah,
Not like
I'll
an
put
escape
something up.
room?
It is.
Not how
and
much time
everybody
it
that's-
takes to get out.
Everybody that's present on the call gets placed in the room, Katie?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and,
Oh,
Open
wait, 1 second. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. We're going to.
Second.
motion to executive session.
Second from Keith. Okay.
all right,
We're
so you'll
good,
see a
Carrie.
notice pop up indicating that you can enter into the room. Go ahead and click that and you'll be all set.
Katie, you're muted. I think.
Yeah, I am muted. Oh my God. No matter how many times I do this,
Yeah.
there's always at least one, and that one was me. Okay, so the only other thing we have to do is just to come up with our next meeting date. I don't know if we want to schedule it now, if it makes kind of more sense to just be in touch later as the time comes when we know a little bit more about what the city's plans are. I'll leave it up to the commission.
Maybe you can just get in touch with us when it gets closer, Katie, a month from now.
Okay. I will do that. Okay, any other questions? Now Keith, you're the one who's muted. No, you're still muted there, Chairbot. KB, unmute.
That's not a bad thing. All right, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
You are unmuted.
All right.
You're sideways.
Yeah, well, everybody else is too. I don't know how that happens. It must be my phone.
You're the only one on my screen that's sideways.
Okay, so Keith, do you have a question or are we ready to
No.
adjourn?
Just let us know when it makes sense and we'll do this again. We're not coming into City Hall to do this yet.
Well, not yet as it stands. But I'll be able to know more after I have my meeting tomorrow to determine what our next steps are.
Well,
Okay.
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we're all set. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.